dynamic and enthusiastic music educator who is passionate about improving access to quality arts opportunities for all students. He has over a decade of experience teaching classroom music and running instrumental and choral programs in public primary schools. Luke has worked at the Arts Unit since 2023 and is currently relieving as music programs K-8 officer. Luke has a Bachelor of Music from the Sydney Conservatorium of Music and a graduate diploma in education from ACE. Please welcome Luke.
Thanks very much. It's a pleasure to be here. I too would like to acknowledge the ongoing custodians of this land that we're on today, the Darramorigal, Gamaragal and Darug people of the Eora Nation. I would also like to pay my personal respects to their elders past and present, and I would like to extend that respect to any Aboriginal people here today. So thanks so much for the introduction. As you heard, I studied music at the Conservatorium of Music. I studied violin when I left school, hoping to become a professional violinist. But during my studies, I sort of fell into teaching almost by accident through a few opportunities I was given to teach an orchestra and a choir at a school near where I lived at the time, and sort of found that teaching young children to make music was such a rewarding and energising kind of experience for me. I felt that it was something that came quite naturally. So by the time I finished my violin degree, I went back to uni again to train as a teacher, and that's what I've been doing ever since. So I was fortunate to work at Concord West Public School as what's called an RFF music teacher. RFF stands for Relief from Face-to-Face Teaching, and so all of the classroom teachers, whenever their students are not with them, they go off and learn some specialist subjects, and that's where I came in. So I was really fortunate to work for 12 years at Concord West Public School, teaching all the students at that school. Little did I know, though, that the opportunities that those students were getting through the program that I was running were quite rare, and not a lot of public primary schools around the state, particularly in areas outside of major cities, have that kind of opportunity for students. So when I was lucky enough to do a number of relieving jobs throughout last year for the Arts Unit, I became more aware of the diversity across the state of opportunities provided to students, and it's definitely something that motivates me to do the work that I do now. So at the Arts Unit, we at the Arts Unit, we promote growth, connection and inclusion through the arts in a variety of settings, providing inspiring arts opportunities for every student in New South Wales, reducing the impact of disadvantage and enriching school communities. Engagement in the arts has a positive impact on academic achievement and student well-being through experiences of connectedness, expression, collaboration and critical thinking. The Arts Unit delivers programs in dance, drama, music, visual arts, debating, public speaking, spelling, literary arts, film and special events, supporting student engagement, well-being and development from kindergarten to Year 12 in diverse school contexts across the state. The Arts Unit also provides targeted professional learning to support teachers' delivery of high-quality arts education, strengthening trust and respect for the teaching profession and school staff. Core activities include festivals and performances, ensembles, exhibitions, camps and workshops, competitions and challenges, digital resources and teacher professional learning. So as you can hear, the scope and breadth of the kinds of programs that we offer it's quite broad, and I've got a short video to sort of try to demonstrate that all of those various programs. You can get it to play. No. Give me a second. I should just pretend that I'm just going to go over here so I'm not in the way of the video.
Yes, that would be good.
There's a lot of programs in there, a lot of art forms. And what I'd like to do today is kind of take you through some of those programs and talk to how those programs enrich the lives of students. My role being a music role, the programs that I work most closely with are music, but you can see that we do cover all of the art forms. So we run 188 individual programs. Most people I meet, when they ask what I do, they haven't heard of the arts unit. But then I say, oh, you've heard of School Spectacular, right? And they say, oh, yes, School Spectacular. So I always say, well, the arts unit runs School Spectacular, but that's one of the 188 programs that we run. It's definitely the largest, and because it's broadcast on TV, it's the one that sort of is our big ticket item that everyone gets to know about and see about. And people have had some experience with School Spectacular. But it's just one of 188 programs that we run. They're all quite different. So this is a picture of School Spectacular last year. There were 5,500 students performing and a number of other students that were sort of contributing to the show backstage in terms of being part of the creative production and media teams that had some creative input on the show. It's pretty, as the name says, it's a spectacular. It's a program that allows some very spectacular photos and images. And it's definitely a real it's a real opportunity for public school students to be part of such a huge team. I know that a lot of independent schools might have showcase concerts and gala nights with big budget sort of production, but one thing that public school students can be a part of that's unique to public schools is those really large scale, huge team productions. And so being one of 5,500 kids in Kudos Bank Arena at the show last year is something that's really unique and such a huge opportunity for those kids. School Spectacular provides opportunities for students to participate on a number of levels. So most of those students that you can see in the picture are part of either the massed choir or the massed dance ensemble. This year I'll be one of the conductors of the massed choir. So that'll be me up where those white shirt people are conducting a lot of kids to see. But then there's a lot of opportunities for really gifted students to be extended in certain aspects that they're really wanting some extension in. So there's featured artists who sing and play at a very, very high level. And then there's also opportunities for students to audition for a featured choir, an orchestra and a stage band, circus arts ensemble, which is a relatively new ensemble that's part of the school spectacular, the taiko drumming ensemble, or to be a student co-host. One thing we're really proud of, a lot of those opportunities being a featured performer or a student co-host, it's quite competitive to get into those. There's a big audition process to be part of those, get those sort of peak pinnacle spots. We had a great workshop that we provided for all of the finalists in the student co-host auditions this year, where they got to work with a number of media personalities on presentation and on how to sort of be on camera and do the things that we sort of see TV presenters do and sort of imagine it came naturally to them and they're just really good at looking comfortable in front of a camera. But one of my colleagues who was part of that workshop told me how eye-opening it was, that all those skills obviously are learned just like any other skill. It was a great opportunity for all the kids, even the ones that didn't get through to the final, to be one of the few co-hosts in the show this year. They got to develop those skills from some industry professionals, which will hopefully strengthen those skills for some future endeavours they might come up against. So this is a photo of School Spectacular on one end is the largest program we run, and we run a lot of other smaller programs. This is an example of a local arts program. It's called Bush Studio, and it's run quite close to here in the Kooringai National Park at Bobbin Head. There's an environmental education centre down at the bottom of Bobbin Head. And part of the Bush Studio programs is a teacher professional learning workshop, which only had 9 teachers this year. That's the photo on your left, and I was part of that. They're working with a practicing artist called Sia Cox there on learning some strategies to use in their classroom. So sort of on one hand, we've got 5,500 students participating in an event that takes, the production week is a week, but then preparing for School Spec lasts about 6 months. And then this is one of our programs that is just for one day with a small number of teachers. And then on the right, there's the picture of the students in the canoe. That's part of the Bush Studio, still in the same location. There's a visual arts camp that we run, also with some practicing visual artists who take students through art making, and particularly in that setting in the Kooringai National Park, engaging with nature and the natural world, and using natural found objects to be part of their meetings for art making. So here's a picture of a rock band that's part of a program called Surround Sound, which is a relatively new program, and it was developed in response to we at the Arts Unit sort of looked at all of the data of the schools that were engaging in a lot of our music programs, and in particular we were finding that schools outside of the major city, or outside of Sydney and in rural areas, were not engaging with a lot of the programs that we were offering. And we were asked questions as to why that was. There's plenty of obvious reasons around geography and the expense of travel, and a lot of our programs that do require travel to Sydney, the cost of that travel is obviously prohibitive. But we found particularly high schools outside of Sydney, a lot of their musical focus was on contemporary music, and we didn't really at that point offer any pinnacle programs for contemporary music. So some of my colleagues devised this program called Surround Sound, which has been a huge success. It's only open to students from schools in rural and remote areas, and it's open to any genre of contemporary music. So students who are part of a band audition, send in an audition video of their band performing a song. If they make it through to the final round, they get to do a workshop at their school with an industry professional. And then they are supported financially to come to Sydney to do a camp around the School Spectacular on the same week as the School Spectacular. They get to perform a 15-minute set just outside of Kudos Bank Arena in an outdoor festival setup called Specfest. And we set it up to sort of look a bit like a music festival, and then a lot of the sort of production team that make that festival run are also students, and so there's an opportunity for vet entertainment students to be part of that professional production. So this is the band that was part of the finals performing outside last year's School Spectacular. So that's me, and I'm standing on the stage of the Opera House earlier this year. That was earlier this month, actually. And this program is one of the main programs that I'm now responsible for organising. It's called the Festival of Instrumental Music. And so it's a state program. It's open to students from kindergarten to year 12, but the main component is for students from years 3 to 6. And there's a massed recorder ensemble. It's around 500 to 600 students each night performing on the recorder, and 200 students on stringed instruments, so violin, viola, cello, and double bass. And we produce all of the repertoire that the students will learn, three pieces for strings and 3 pieces for recorder, and one of those pieces is the same, so there's one finale item that they perform all together with the whole group, and that's what we're rehearsing in this photo here. A big part of that festival is being at the iconic Sydney Opera House, which is an opportunity that's, I know that these festivals have been running in some way, shape or form since 1946. They didn't start at the Opera House, but they've been there for quite some time, and I often meet people who say, oh yes, either the recorder thing or the choir thing at the Opera House, I did that when I was a kid. And I know that it's such a huge life-changing, for want of a better word, experience for these students to get to perform in such a venue at such a young age. And then also to see the other students that we do in between the massed items, offer opportunities for really talented groups and soloists to do performances that are part of the show as well. So this year, it's hard to see in the photo, but
sort of up here, this black splodge here is a piano.
And so usually for this finale item, it's just the strings and recorders, but we had a piano concerto arranged called Concertino Bianco, and it was arranged for the massed group to be the accompanying orchestra. And we opened the solo spot up to audition for primary school students from across the state. Really, really high level piano repertoire to be playing, but we know that there's such a, there are a lot of kids out there who are playing the piano at a really high level. And the 4 kids that got through to play, there were 4 nights in this year's festival, there's a different soloist on each night, were absolutely exceptional. And they got a standing ovation after their performance. It's such a fantastic opportunity for those young pianists to get to play the Steinway Grand on the Opera House stage in front of a huge orchestra so early on in their career. So I hope to see some of those students playing perhaps a piano concerto with the Sydney Symphony at some point, maybe in a few years. So this is another festival we run at the Opera House called the Festival of Choral Music. That's coming up in August this year. This photo was taken last year at the Festival of Choral Music, right at the end of the show, when the kids did a tiny little bit of a choreography. We quickly took a photo of them with all their hands in the air. But this year we've got 4,000 students performing across 5 nights at the Opera House in a massed choir setup. So there's 700 kids in each night, representing 320 schools. Again, a fantastic opportunity for those kids. A lot of them are not getting the chance to do any large-scale musical performance within their school context, and their choir is given the repertoire and the resources to get them up to the performance level, and then they come and do a show with us at the Opera House. The cool thing about that is also that there's an orchestral accompaniment for some of those songs, and so the kids, it's the first time they get to see, for many of them, a symphony orchestra. They might have never even heard of a bassoon, and they get to see a bassoon and an oboe and then a violin and a double bass accompanying them in an orchestra, which is pretty special. And there's also, this year, we've got the State Wind Band and State Choir performing at the same show. One interesting point of note for this year's choral festival is we've commissioned an arrangement of a song in Tiwi language from the Tiwi Islands, just north of Darwin. And we've done a lot of consulting with the cultural custodians of the language, the Tiwi language. They're called the Tiwi Strong Women's Group, and they've been a part of a a project to try to make sure that the language and the songs are documented and are written down and recorded, and hopefully reinvigorating that language. So we're able to get permission from them to use one of their songs, Woolly Jugger, in an arrangement that's going to be performed by the students from all across the state. So 700 kids, non-Aboriginal and Aboriginal kids from all across the state performing their song, Woolly Jugger. We're hoping to get some of those women to come to Sydney to be a part of the show and see their song performed. And so I'm hoping that's we're sort of working hard to make that happen at the moment, but definitely an exciting opportunity and something that has been quite rewarding to be a part of. So, as I said, a big part of our work is trying to make sure we're providing opportunities to students from all across the state. And although the two festivals that I just talked about are representative of the state, and there's people who come from Burke and Cobar and Murwillumbah and Bega to be a part of the Opera House festivals, it's the cost to a student coming from Murwillumbah is about $1,000 per student minimum just to be a part of that show. And usually that cost is passed on to families, and that's completely out of the reach of many families. Whereas if you're living, if you attend a school down the road from here, it's probably a train ticket into the city and your $40 participation fee. So it's not really equitable. And so recently we've been looking at ways that we can provide a similar opportunity to students who live further away with less cost. Both in terms of financial cost to families and schools, but also time cost to teachers and schools. So one initiative we've been running is called the Compass Music Festival, which uses a lot of the same kind of stuff, a lot of the same repertoire and a lot of the same resources that have been produced for the Opera House festivals, but they're run in a location outside of Sydney. So we've run one in Coffs Harbour 3 times now, and this year was the first time we have run one in Bega. So they're called Compass North Coast and Compass Far South Coast. And this picture was taken this year. That's my colleague Ian Jefferson conducting the mass choir and the Bellingen Youth Orchestra, who were accompanying the mass choir at Coffs Harbour. So definitely an exciting program to be a part of, and one that's providing opportunities to students who live further away from Sydney to do the same kind of things. That's so much more accessible to students living closer to the Opera House. We also try to allow or sort of create opportunities for local music making to be a part of those festivals. So the Bellingen Youth Orchestra, which is a fantastic community orchestra that runs up in Bellingen and has been running for a long time, are closely affiliated with the Compass North Coast Festival. And then there's a number of ensembles down near Bega, part of the Sapphire Coast Learning Community that performed at the Bega Festival as well. So here's a picture of a Year 8 student called Violet Highland. I thought she'd be an interesting sort of case study to talk about, because she put an audition in to be a featured artist at the Compass Music Festival this year, very early in the year those applications were due. And she performed her own song, like an original song at that festival, and that's where this photo was taken. But in between being successful in gaining that place earlier this year, she also auditioned to do a performance at the Opera House at the Festival of Instrumental Music a few weeks ago. And she also won 7 first places, I believe, in a regional at Stedford in Coffs Harbour. So there's a lot of different opportunities that she was able to get in a short space of time. It's fantastic to see the growth in her. We had a TV camera come to the Opera House to film her for a local news story that was played on 7 Prime North Coast. It was great to see. I was one of the people on the panel who watched her video audition for the Compass Music Festival, and she was in her bedroom, and she was singing beautifully and playing beautifully, but she seemed very timid and shy. And then to see this super confident Year 8 girl being interviewed on a TV camera and being so articulate and confident was such a fantastic thing to see. And I'd like to think that she would have grown that much on her own anyway. But I'd like to think that some of those opportunities we were able to give her to perform on a stage like this were formative and were able to give her the chance to develop and grow. I'm sure she's on to bigger and better things in the short-term future. So Pulse Far West is another reasonably new program we've been running for the last 3 years, and this year it ran in 3 locations in the far west of New South Wales. In Sunraysia, down near the Victorian border, in Moree and in Broken Hill. And again, we're quite strategic in the way we look at the data that's coming to us from participation in all of our programs, and we look at areas of need and areas where the programs that we're providing are not addressing the need of certain areas. And definitely the far west of New South Wales was an area a few years back that we identified as an area that we're not engaging very readily with our music programs that we were offering. So the way that the Pulse tours work is that they sort of bounce off an event that we run in Sydney at the beginning of the year called Pulse Alive, and it's an arena spectacular, quite similar to School Spectacular, but it's at the beginning of the year, and it's sort of like there's less of a buy-in from teachers in terms of participation fees and also time. So it's a bit of an easier entry point to get in and be a part of the choir or be a part of the dance group. But some of the featured students that are part of Pulse Alive then go on tour out to one of these 3 locations, and they go with teachers and industry professionals, and they put on a show in a school hall in these locations. They do workshops with the local students across a week, and they put on a show. And you can see in the picture there's professional lighting that we put up. We bring staging, we bring a whole touring crew that turn their school hall into a concert theatre, and then we put on a show, and you can see all these kids playing bucket drums. They're actually buying these buckets that we just bought. I think there was 1,000 buckets we brought on tour with us, and 1,000 sets of drumsticks, and part of the show was them playing a piece that they learned that week on the bucket drums. So definitely a great opportunity for those kids, the local students that are part of that show, but also a great opportunity for the students. They are drawn from across the state, the mentoring students, but a lot of them come from inner Sydney, and they get to go out into the country and see all of these different rural areas and see how different these students are and the opportunities that they have, but also how similar they are. And so it's quite a special thing that they are part of the teaching team that mentor the local students and then put on a show together with them. And so, yeah, I mean, my job at the moment is music-based, so that's where I come from. So most of the things I've talked about today are about music, and that's definitely my area of expertise, but we do have similar project officers in the other art forms as well that run similar kinds of programs within their own art forms. And we also cater for things like debating, public speaking. We run the Premier's the Spelling Bee and the Premier's Reading Challenge. We run a lot of other, we have a big film program called Film By, which is also reasonably new. We do cover a lot of other art forms that I haven't really talked about today. Before I hand over to you for questions, some of you may already know how to find out more, but just in case you didn't, there are two main points that you could go to find out more about what we do at the Arts Unit and the programs and events that we do have coming up. Our website is theartsunit.nsw.edu.au, and on that page you'll find information about specific programs, and that page is sort of more for teachers and students who would like to enrol in some of our programs or apply, find out how they can do that. And then a great way to see what's happening now or what's coming up is by following us on Facebook, because we do post often photos of what's coming up and photos of what happened last week. And many of the photos I've had on the slideshow today were also posted on our Facebook. So that's sort of where you can find out more about what we're doing and the opportunities we're providing for students across the state. Thank you.